Hello and welcome back to Raise Gaming and more Monster Hunter Wilds talk. Today though, we're talking beta, because that's amazingly about to happen. If you're playing on PlayStation 5 and happen to be a PS Plus user, you'll be able to play a little bit earlier than everyone else and for a little bit longer overall. There's 2 days, October 29th to October 31st, GMT time starting at 3 AM. And then we have a day pause between the actual open beta where everyone can just play from November 1st to November 4th, starting and ending again at 3 AM GMT. Ultimately, if you were to play both, that'd be 5 days of playtime total, or just 3 for everyone in the open beta. The open beta, by comparison though, does take place on PlayStation 5, current Xbox systems, and Steam, and will have crossplay to my understanding. They've also confirmed you don't need to have pre-ordered the game to play in the beta either, so it's just going to be open, you're going to be able to try it for free, and that is awesome. But for today's video, I just want to give you the information on what to expect from this beta, the good things to know and think about going in, and that's because I played the game already. I played it at Gamescom, I covered all the news around the game, I have a good experience with it. So there's just some things I think are going to be good to know beforehand as you go in. So let's begin. There are going to be 3 things you can do in this beta. Initially, you will make your character, and what's cool about this is the fact that you'll be able to bring this forward to the full release. So if you wanted to absolutely one for one spend all the time making a character and then bring that to the full game so you don't have to spend any time on the character creator, do that in this beta. Outside of that, we have 2 options, the story mission and the doshaguma hunt. For the story mission, it's actually quite short but neat. There's going to be some cinematics. It's the first mission of the game, that's my understanding. It's where you first get your seikret. You'll choose a weapon and you could do the quiz with your handler to work out what you want to play, if that's what you want to do. And right there in this demo is going to be a kind of barrel next to the tent where you do that, giving you a chance to practice against this barrel, hitting it over and over next to the tent to, learn the weapons basics and the new stuff. I don't think that barrel can generate wounds though, so hopefully in this beta version they've updated that. But in any case, that story mission is going to be pretty short and sweet, mostly ending with a chatacabra hunt that's pretty weak. Alternative to that is the much bigger one, the doshaguma hunt, which will feature the whole map to run around on, but also balahara, chatacabra, and ryozo on the map as well, if it's the same demo that we played at all of the different events. Just remember though that whatever it is, they called this a limited scope version of the Windward Plains, so there is a chance we won't have full access to the map, or maybe what they mean by limited stuff is things like no smithy and certain NPC interactions aren't going to be accessible. Let's now jump around different topics that should be useful to know going in, starting with the seikret and its functions, which, if you've not really looked into it, is going to feel a little bit weird. You would compare it to the palamute since it's a similar style mount, but it actually functions differently. It simply moves forward whenever it's moving. So all you can really do is control its speed and the turning that it's on. Whether you're on manual or automatic mode, that's up to you. But no matter what, it just kind of runs forward. And at first, that's going to feel awkward, to be honest with you. But very quickly, it becomes quite handy. You increase the speed on a controller by pressing R1 or holding it to go to max speed, much like you'd sprint as normal. Or you can tap R2 to slow down the speed to a slower speed or hold it to full stop. Once you've got that down, you're going to be fine. Ultimately though, you can open the map and do systems like quest boards or other stuff while you're in that automatic run mode. Automatic, by comparison, just goes to whatever your main marker is. So if that's like a specific monster or a specific object, it just runs straight to it, following the kind of green scout fly's path as usual. So if you want to set your own waypoint, you can just pull up the map, place a marker down, that'll put the scout flies to it, and if you go on auto mode on the seikret, it'll just run to it. Be aware that the seikret will automatically climb and travel through complex terrain, jumps and stuff automatically, so you don't need to mess with that. And when you're mid-air, you can hold R2 to pull out the wings to glide. This will help you get a bit more forward momentum and stay in the air instead of just fall down if it's something you want. But if you want to swap the weapon to your other secondary weapon, then you will press right on the D-pad. This will require the seikret to come running over to you first though, so you're either mid-mount or it's coming over to you. Then you'll swap the weapon. Other than that, there's 2 things I want to mention. The new dismount attacks, which if you press triangle and circle at the same time on a PlayStation controller, will exit the mount with a special attack. That is great for exiting a mount for normal damage. But if you're looking to generate a mount, you want to jump off the seikret with X, putting you in the air, and then you can do an aerial attack while you're there. This will build up mount damage and maybe even trigger a mount. Speaking of mounting, it's going to be a bit different this time if you're coming from Rise. But if you're coming from World or did play World, it's actually hopefully a lot familiar to that. Ultimately, you're on the monster, your stamina bar is draining, and the monster will occasionally try to throw you off. You'll be able to hold on by holding a keybind, and that will reduce the stamina loss while it's trying to throw you off. But otherwise, you try to deal damage to the weak point, whether that's the head or somewhere else, by repeatedly stabbing it. Now though, you can also use your weapon directly, and this results in building up for a finisher, which means we each now have with every weapon a new unique finisher animation. When you land a finisher successfully, it will knock the monster down, leaving it vulnerable for some big combos. So yeah, very similar to World, just with the fact that you're using your main weapon a little bit more now. Now, in regards to equipment and weapon changes and stuff like that, I would strongly recommend once you're in game, you're really going, to check the weapon information screens for every new attack and all the real in-depth details. This is information that I wish I've had this whole time I've not been able to play the game after playing at Gamescom. If I could just slowly go down every single possible attack for my weapon, it'd make it a lot easier to understand what's new and how to apply it into your normal gameplay. Of course, there's going to be lots of guides online after the beta drops, and you can expect that from me and others to help you understand weapons without manually going through that information yourself. Otherwise, if you want a quick start guide, maybe even right now, there's the official Capcom's guide online where they have this page for each and every weapon and some of the basic information. Some of these pages have a lot more information than others, and that's a shame because all of them do have a lot of changes, some of it quite subtle and impactful stuff that's simply not listed on these pages. So don't take it as a holy grail and all the information, but it's a good source to start with. Now, for the equipment you're actually going to get, you're going to be given a normal set of weapons called the New Hope set. This is the basic armor set and all of the weapons we're going to get with their own weapon skills. This is because you're going to get simple skills like speed sharpening and ballistics for a bowgun. Those are going to be on your weapons. Offensive skills are on the weapons, where defensive or utility, those are now meant to be on your gear. But not only that, there's some kind of system for when you swap the weapon that's been talked about, like a loadout or skill swap system. Imagine you're going from a melee weapon to a ranged weapon. The skills you're going to want on your armor set and your weapon are going to be very different. So they've said there's some kind of system to allow for that, but I don't think we're going to see that in the beta. In any case, for armor, you will be able to choose between the Hope armor set, the Chatacabra set, the Balahara set, and the Doshaguma one too, if we get the same stuff as the demo. These do have skills to consider, like speed eating, stun resistance, bombardier, free meal, and even more impactful stuff like divine blessing. So I would recommend checking out each and every armor piece and seeing what skills are on it, and then if that's relevant to your weapon of choice. It'll be a small impact, but minor enough to consider if you personally want to min-max or understand this stuff. Not to mention, set bonuses are back, so by wearing between 2 to 4 pieces of the same set, depending on the set, you'll activate a group skill bonus. On that note, the whole gender-locked armor sets, that is a thing of the past, so you can wear whichever male or female version of the armor set you like. So if it's Chatacabra's A or B version, it's still going to have the same stats and skills, so that is nice. Also here, you're going to be dabbling with focus mode for the first time, meaning you're going to be able to create wounds by dealing enough damage to a spot, and then use your new focus mode attack unique to every weapon to break those and do something unique after that. Now, my advice on this is it might actually be worth it to not instantly consume a wound just because it's there. For some weapons, it's good to pull them out at the right moment. For example, with longsword, you gain a spirit gauge level up by consuming one wound with your focus mode attack. The thing is, you can hit multiple in one go from multiple level ups at once. Therefore, saving the wounds and generating a bunch of them to then consume multiple in one go to quickly re-level the gauge after using a helm splitter and the new follow-up, that is a clever trick. So just consider the unique focus mode attacks, what that benefits you when you use them, and if you should use them ASAP, or maybe with some, save them for the right time. Obviously, another big part of focus mode is the fact that you can aim during pretty much any attack as a melee weapon now, amazing for slower weapons like greatsword, allowing you to turn and be more accurate with your attacks, compared to just sort of feeling it out. I think all players, I certainly did, you're going to have a hard time getting used to this new system and really properly using it. So try to experiment, try to make yourself use it. This is the right time. Other quick tips I want to give you then would be, say, for monsters. Be aware that some monsters are going to move in alpha groups like packs. In our version of the game we'll be playing, that's probably just going to be doshaguma. So I'd recommend using a large dung pod or a lure pod to intentionally separate the alpha from the pack. It will make the fight a lot less annoying and awkward and difficult because those smaller monsters, they intentionally get in the way. The other thing to be aware of is the limited amount of consumables we're given, and null berries of course exist on the map, but you won't start with any if it's the same as the version I played. That means if you're going to choose to hunt Ray Dow if he's out there, null berries will really help you prevent getting full stunned, so gather some before you fight him if you want to make it easier. But if you plan to hunt Ray Dow, you're going to have to wait for the sand tide to start and then head to area 13, which is just a large desert dune area. That's where he seems to spawn in. Next, a quick talk about the new cooking system. It is not that complex, but it is slightly different. You'll be able to do that in this beta in the 10 or via your portable grill item anywhere. There's still the old portable cooking minigame if you want under the barbecue option, but the proper cooking will be under the barbecue grill. So here's how it works. You have 3 options: the ration, the additional ingredients, and the finishing touches. The recommended meal will kind of do this automatically for you and will give you most of what you want. But if you want to make a custom meal, you need to pick your ration, which will be meat, fish, veggies. Meat being the attack power buffs, fish being defense, veggies being element resistance. Then you have the additional ingredients. That'll be things like mushrooms or shrimp for us, resulting in different skills. The drool shroom provides black belt as a skill, reducing stamina loss, which is nice. But then with your finishing touches, there's going to be things like herbs, honey, or chili as options. These will provide extra skills, but the one I'll probably recommend to you is go with honey. That provides the medic meal skill. That increases the amount of health recovered when healing, and that should be a great pick for this beta. Ultimately though, just eating increases your health and stamina and should always be done. The food buff will last 30 minutes, so it's good to have. More fast fire stuff to know would be, say, you can use your grapple from the back of the seikret or standing there to grab, say, beetles and use aerial attacks, or pick up consumables and items, pull down terrain for environmental traps. Sneak attacks are now a thing. To do that, you just need to sneak up on a monster and then use the sneak attack button, whatever setup you're using. It's very easy to do this by just applying a ghillie mantle. You can run straight up to it and then just do a sneak attack, or you could be like crouching around and using bushes, but there's a lot more effort. Another thing to be aware of is the clashing mechanic. Basically, to trigger a clash, you need to perfectly guard right as you're about to be hit. About half the weapons in the roster can guard, and generally, they've sped up the effectiveness of guarding. Specifically, say, Greatsword with its guarding in the past games has never been that quick or good. But in Wilds, it's particularly good because it's much faster and more reliable. So block right as you're about to be hit, and you might trigger a clash, which will hold the monster in place, you get some damage off, mini stagger, and you can follow up with a strong combo attack depending on the weapon after you land one of these. Otherwise, play around with your map, check out the UI. There's new features like being able to check the weather and time to see if the sand tide's currently going for us. There's a 3D map and seeing where you can really explore. There's lots of secret areas, like some areas you'll have to swim to, places the seikret can't go. It's going to be a great time to explore if they haven't limited us too much. But yeah, I hope this little overview of some of the details to think about, or at least look out for, will help you have a smooth experience on day one. Remember to just take it slow, have fun, use this as a chance to experiment. I think even after one day of playing, you'll be mostly comfortable with your main weapon and the changes, and at that point, it'll be good to explore and try all the new features. If you're playing just the open beta, it's still 3 full days to try it all out. And during that time, you can expect from us lots of different useful videos. Until then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.